Happy Wednesday, Penguins fans. Lots to discuss on this one. We're going to preview the game against the Edmonton Oilers, how the Penguins can overcome their amazing offensive attack led by Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. We are also going to get into just how bad that third line has been. We're going to dive into all of the stats and look at a few trade rumors that have been circling around the Penguins today. It's all coming up right after this drop for the Locked On Penguins podcast.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm, of course, your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at @NorthStar Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. And of course, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. You can visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. So let's jump right into this. Let's preview this game against the Edmonton Oilers. That is the Penguins' next game as they try to snap this 3-game losing streak. They've lost all 3 games in regulation. 2 Metropolitan Division teams, 2 to the Islanders, 1 to the Devils. They are 0-6-3 in their last 9 to the Metropolitan Division. Never seen them struggle like this against a division. It's probably the worst I've ever seen them play against divisional teams this season. The only teams I think they've beaten in the division this year be the Rangers, funny enough, Washington, Philadelphia, Columbus, and I'm pretty positive that is it. Did not beat that Devil. They have not beat the Devils, Islanders, or the Hurricanes. So 4 of the teams they have beaten in the division. That's it. It's embarrassing. But Penguins will get one of their last Western Conference games out of the way on Thursday, when they will take on Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and the Edmonton Oilers. The Penguins have played very well against the Oilers dating back to 2007. They actually have points in 19 of their last 22 games against them. They are 15-3-4 in their last 22 games against the Oilers. They have also points in 9 of their last 10 games against the Oilers, 7-1-2, dating back to 2008. That it was 7-0-2 before last year when the Oilers won in not overtime, in regulation. They blitzed the Penguins in that game, and that was I believe that was the game at the end of the season where it was looking like the Penguins were really cooked. That Oilers' speed and skill gave them fits throughout. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Evander Kane were just way too much for the Penguins. They looked way too slow against the Oilers, and they're going to have to not look that slow again, because in the first matchup this season, remember, the Penguins jumped out to that 2-0 lead, played a really good first period. After that, it was a complete and utter nosedive. So they're going to have to play way more than 20 minutes if they want to win this game. They got blown out in the rest of that game. I will say that. And there's a rumor going around with the Penguins potentially being in on Luke Schenn. Again, I'm going to get to that in a second. I apologize. It has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. Anyways, but you all get my drift. Their speed and skill has really caused, the Penguins fits. They've won 3 games in a row, I will say, against the Penguins, which is, again, very rare, because the Penguins usually play very well against Connor McDavid and the Oilers. After this game, the Penguins will play 4 of their next 5 games on the road. So it is imperative to win this game, not just, for that, but just because you got to snap this losing streak. The Penguins are also 15-9 against Western Conference opponents this season, which also includes a 9-3 record at home. So outside of those stats, when you go to not Money Puck Daily Faceoff, you look at their lines. Zach Hyman, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, you all know where it starts. Connor McDavid is the best player in the world. If you disagree, I would love to hear who you think is the best player in hockey, because he's already hit 100 points. He's a one-man wrecking crew. He's the fastest guy alive. I feel like he has a ridiculous shot. His playmaking ability is second to none. He is disgusting. He makes anyone on any given night look foolish. He is literally a clone of a younger version of Sidney Crosby. That is who he is. Honestly, by the time his career is over, wouldn't be surprised if he is close to the numbers, because Sid's right now, he's what? Got over 1,500 points, right? Would not be surprised if McDavid is there by the end of his career, if not a little higher. Leon Draisaitl, you know what you're going to get with him. Beautiful shot as well. Great playmaking ability. They have the luxury of putting him either with McDavid or without him. He is with McDavid right now, so that makes their lineup a little more top heavy. But if he is on the second line and maybe they put Yamamoto up there, which I'll talk about in just a second, it does make them a little bit deeper. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Yamamoto, and then Desjardins are on the second line. Ryan McLeod, Warren Foegele, Matthias Janmark for their third line. Jesse Puljujarvi, Derek Ryan, and Devin Shore to round up their fourth group. But you know what you're going to get with their top guys of Draisaitl, McDavid, Hyman, and Nugent-Hopkins. Those are the guys to look out for right now. Evander Kane is day-to-day. Not really sure if he's going to play in this one. Obviously, they're still without Oscar Klefbom. I don't think he's ever going to play again. Ryan Murray's hurt. Klim Kostin is hurt defensively. Darnell Nurse, Cody Ceci, Tyson Berry, Brett Kulak, Philip Broberg, and then Evan Bouchard. Nurse is the top defenseman on their team. He can do it all offensively, defensively. Cody Ceci, it is funny that he's getting top pairing minutes, but he has still been pretty decent ever since moving on from the Penguins just a couple of seasons ago. Kulak is a player I really do like. He's more known for his defense compared to his offense. He in a second pairing role, I like that quite a bit. Tyson Berry, he's the more offensive player on that pairing. He mainly runs, I think, their top power play right now. Nurses on their second unit. And then Evan Bouchard, he's still a good player, but he's getting sheltered a little bit right now. If the Penguins, if they can somehow neutralize the top two lines of the Oilers, they should be able to, come out of this with a win. But, there are still players in the Oilers bottom six that can hurt you as well. Janmark, sneaky underrated player. Puljujarvi, he's not having the best year, but he can also strike at any time. Warren Foegele, a.k.a. McLovin, for those that have watched Superbad, he's also not a bad depth piece. Derek Ryan, Ryan McLeod. So they have players that can hurt you. And I should throw Yamamoto in there. He just came back from injury. Another very solid player. In terms of keys, you all know what I'm going to say. Gosh, shut down Connor McDavid. I know. You're probably asking, how do you do that? Well, give him a healthy dosage of Crystal Tang and give him a healthy dosage of Sidney Crosby. I think if you can match his line out against the McDavid line, and you can let the Evgeny Malkin line go out against the Oilers' second line, which is not as good as the Zucker, Malkin, Raquel line, I think the Penguins will be able to win that matchup. And despite how bad the third line is, if that can just be a little bit of a wash and they can outplay the Oilers' bottom six, and especially the Penguins' fourth line with O'Connor there, I think they can, definitely, hopefully create more scoring chances compared to the Oilers. But, that's always big. Shutting down the Oilers power play. They have one of the best units in the league. And again, it is not hard to see why. Zach Hyman, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, Tyson Berry. Good freaking luck stopping that unit. World-class talent on there. World-class finishers. Hyman had a good game against the Penguins last time. I believe he had 2 goals in that one. McDavid, I think, also had one. It's always, appointment television when McDavid and Crosby go up against each other because it doesn't really happen that often. But, it really does come down, to it being as simple as this. You stop their top 6, especially the top line, you win the game. The Oilers have been struggling coming into this game. They did just beat the Flyers. Believe it was on Tuesday night, a 4-2 final. But before then, this is a team that was losing to, some pretty bad teams. So they're 4-1. They've lost 6 of their last 10 games. They're currently 4th in the Pacific. They blew a 2-goal lead to the Avalanche. They lost to the Rangers. They lost to the Red Wings. They lost to the Canadiens. Before this game against the Flyers, this was an Oilers team that had lost 4 in a row. Again, one of those losses was a 6-2 loss to the Canadiens. They lost to the Flyers a little bit before that in a shootout. So, this team is kind of hurting right now. They also lost to Columbus about a month ago in Edmonton. So they lost to some bad teams. This is definitely a beatable team if you are, obviously a big fan of the Penguins, you're listening to the show. But they can contain McDavid and Draisaitl, limit Hyman a little bit, get their defense off their game. I really do think the Penguins can come out of this one victorious. Goaltending-wise for the Oilers, would expect Stuart Skinner in this one. Jack Campbell is not playing that well this season. His contract is aging like milk. Well below, I believe he's in the negatives in terms of goal save that expected. Stuart Skinner has assumed that starting job, would expect him to start in this one. So throw a lot of pucks at him. Power play has to be better as well, especially because the Oilers, even though the Penguins' penalty kill has been good this season, going up against the Oilers, it's so tough. You have to be able to match them on your power play. The first unit needs to be better. 2 for 19, 2 for 20 slump going into this game. Not good enough in the slightest. Just not. So that's what I'm really looking for this one. And they need to bank these points. You've been getting help. The Capitals lost on Tuesday night. The Sabres got blown out. I know the Red Wings are kind of surging a little bit, but the Islanders are winning also. But the Penguins, they have games in hand on these teams. You have games in hand on the Panthers. Still play the Panthers one more time, and you've gotten all 4 points against them. These games in hand are not going to mean anything, though, if you don't win them. So it has to start tomorrow. These are all playoff games down the stretch. You got to win them, starting with this one. Going to be tough. So we'll see what happens with that. Coming up in the second segment, we're going to get into some trade discussion for today, getting a couple rumors that I saw and all that good stuff. And I'm going to tell you why it is very weird that the Penguins appear to be in on Luke Schenn. I'm going to hold that thought, though. Before we get into that, we are going to have to talk about FanDuel, which is, of course, the official sportsbook betting partner of Locked On. And the midway point of the NBA season is here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook as well, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your bet does not win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores and 3 strand. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. So don't miss a chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA and Locked On. All right, I'm back here in this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow this show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. So let's get into a rumor that I actually just saw right before recording this. And Elliot Friedman was talking about Luke Schenn, because it sounds like that there's talks have heated up with Luke Schenn. And apparently Elliot Friedman says he's named the Bruins and the Penguins as the 2 teams still in on Schenn. Mentioned there's some other teams as well, but those are the 2 teams he's hearing consistently. Why? That is my main question when I really think about this. Why are they going after Luke Schenn? Is it just because of toughness? Hello? Last I checked, I don't really think they need to get and I'm going to be frank here, I don't think they need to get a 33-year-old third-pairing defenseman on this roster. They already have plenty of those at this point. And, oh yeah, I also, don't want to be giving up a second-round pick for him, because that's the asking price I have seen mentioned by Elliot Friedman and a couple other insiders. You want to pay a second-round pick for that? Doesn't really make much sense to me. And, he's not an offensive defenseman. He's kind of a stay-at-home type, someone who's going to play decent defense for you. So he's basically just another version of Jan Rutta. And it's also hilarious that the Penguins, this is like the only player that's like really been connected to them so far throughout this trade process, which I think is hilarious. And again, if they were to trade for Luke Schenn here, this would literally be almost like, I feel like, a fireable offense. Let's look at Jay Fresh's stuff here. And, he uses data from Top Down Hockey, Natural Stat Trick, also contract data as well. So third pairing defenseman, cap hit $900K for the rest of the year. So he's kind of, he's a rental. Has the name quality. He's the brother of Brayden Schenn. He ranks in the 7th percentile in wins above replacement. Not good. He ranks in the 30th percentile in even strength offense. He ranks in the 47th percentile in even strength defense, 7th percentile in penalty killing efficiency, 3rd percentile in drawing penalties. He is decent in primary assists per 60, 91st percentile, so that's not bad. Finishing above water, 58%, teammate 64th percentile, but a lot of that stuff, it's garbage. It's rough. So again, can someone please tell me why they are in on the defensive market here? Other than toughness, what is there to like about Luke Schenn's game? by looking at those numbers and looking at JFresh's card for him, because I just logged on for my stuff and my account and looked at it. He's basically just a lesser version of Jan Ruda. What are we doing, Ron? Serious question. What are we doing here? Like, I get it. Luke Schenn. Oh yeah, you know him from your Philly days and all this other stuff. But it's like, really? Like, and I'm going to go to Natural Stat Trick here to also show his numbers for the season if Natural Stat Trick also wants to load. But again, when this team is fully healthy and they have all the defensemen there, they don't need another one. In fact, they could probably use less defensemen, on this roster. God, I'm getting so fired up about it that I'm just misspeaking my words. But I understand the Canucks have been a mess this season, but in 55 games, he's played 830 minutes at 5-on-5. When he's on the ice, the Canucks only have 45% of the shot attempts, about 50% in terms of actual goals for, 45% of terms of scoring chances, 44% in terms of high danger chances, 32% of expected goals, 53% in terms of high danger actual goals for. So that's not bad, but most of his numbers are well below water here. There is no reason for this at all. I'm sorry. If there are a couple areas of this roster that you want to upgrade on, it is the third line, which I'm going to get to coming up after this commercial break. And it's a goalie. Anthony Stolarz. Elliot Freeman mentioned him in his 32 Thoughts blog on Wednesday morning. He would make a lot of sense. He has similar numbers to Smith, but he's playing on a bad Anaheim team, still putting up those kind of numbers. What could he do here on a better team than the Penguins? Cam Talbot's name is out there. That also makes sense. But outside of that and upgrading the third line, there are really no other upgrades to be had here for this team. I am sorry. Other than maybe Jacob Chikrin, Jake McCabe, but that's going to be, I think, too high of an asking price for the Penguins. There is no need to trade for a defenseman like Luke Schenn. It makes no sense. His numbers stink. They already have plenty of his kind of caliber on the team. I mean, Brian Dumoulin, Marcus Pettersson, Jan Ruda, and they're all better than him. So any team I think that trades for him and gives up a second round pick is just foolish, if you ask me. People, you all can disagree with me if you want. If you think Luke Schenn will be a good fit for this team, let me know in the comments. I'd be more than happy to hear what you all have to say. In my opinion, though, I think it makes no sense. His numbers are bad. He is not what this team needs right now. I think it would just be a really foolish acquisition, if you're asking me. But that does it for this second segment. Coming up in the final segment, we're going to go into the hard, ugly truth of just how bad the Penguins' third line has been this season, because it has been brutal. That's all coming up right after this commercial break. All right, I'm back in this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at @Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. So let's just jump right into it. The third line, we all know it is the line that is killing this team. They had it again in practice today. Alan Walsh, what is the definition of doing insanity? What is the definition of insanity? Excuse me. Yes. Doing the same thing and expecting different results. Had to quote the Alan Walsh tweet after he put that out last week for the Calgary and tweeted out the Calgary Flames, because Jonathan Huberdeau was there and they've had a really, let's just say that they've struggled this season. But in terms of how bad this third line has been, we have some data for you. In terms of per money puck, in minimum ice time, 150 minutes. They out of 90 forward lines that have been together for 150 minutes, the McGinn, Carter, Kapanen line ranks 87th with a 38.7% expected goals rate. Expected goals for rate, it gets even worse. 5.5. Expected goals for per 60 minutes, it's 2. Expected goals against per 60, it is 3. Expected goals against total, though, it is, if I can get that right, 8.7. Garbage. It is, again, when people say that it is arguably, if not the worst line in hockey, it is backed up by statistics. There are only 3 lines behind them right now in terms of being worse than expected goals, shot attempts, scoring chances, all that stuff. And for some reason, Mike Sullivan wants to run them out there again. Why? I have no freaking idea. But they are killing them every time they sit out there. Brock McGinn has no points in 23 games. I don't even know how that's possible. I'm sorry, I don't. Like, outside of Jeff Carter being an abomination on that line, how do you not have a point in 23 games? When you seem like you've been fully healthy, you went on that shooting bender, even when Carter was stinking up the joint on that line. What the heck happened? Like, that's just not a point, not even a secondary assist. Like, what are we doing here? And, Kasperi Kapanen, he's not doing anything either. Jeff Carter, we all know how bad he's been, but hey, they have great leadership and all this blah, 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 blah. I don't really give a damn. Break up that line. Put one of them in the press box. Would Danton Heinen really be worse than one of those 3 players? You're telling me that? No chance. No chance. You put Danton Heinen in there over Brock McGinn, he probably scores in that first game, knowing that's how the Penguins' luck goes. He is such a better option at this point, and he hasn't even been that good this season. It's not even funny, man. It's even, and I understand that they tried something new. They put O'Connor up there, right? Shot attempts, they got it against that. That was against the Devils. Out attempted 12-1 and 5-on-5. Out chance, I think it was 10-1. Out high danger, like 6-1, something like that. And I get it. They demoted Drew after that. Whatever, but it wasn't Drew's fault. At least he was looking okay in that game. It's the other 2 players' faults who also stink in Carter and Kapanen because they bumped McGinn down. Until you make actual roster changes and you make a trade here, I am sorry. This third line is only going to continue to screw you if you keep icing it. It makes no sense. I know Mike Sullivan is smarter than this. He has to be. Is he doing it out of spite? Probably not, but I don't know. Does he maybe think he has no other options? Sure. But you got to change something up with it. It's not good enough. The numbers don't lie. The eye test, the eye test stacks up to it. That line sucks. S-U-C-K-S. It sucks. There is nothing doing when it comes on the ice, offensively or defensively, especially defensively. They are just getting pinned in their own zone. They cannot carry the puck up the ice to save their lives. And because of that, they're never getting any scoring chances. You need to have a productive third line if you are going to win a Stanley Cup or be a contender for the Stanley Cup in this league. I saw this today, and I'm going to say it here. With the money that those 3 players take up, 3.2 to Kapanen, 2.75 to McGinn, 3.1, something like that for Carter. Wouldn't it? Imagine what a Danton Heinen, Evan Rodriguez, and a Jared McCann third line would look like right now. Yep. Imagine that. Rodriguez is only making 2? McCann's making 5. You're at 7 right there. Heinen's making 1. $8 million. Imagine what that'd be looking like. Yep. They probably would be top 3 in the Metro right now, to be honest. I'm telling you, they are not going to go anywhere if they continue to ice this third line. And the worst part is, all 3 players right now are signed until after next season. It's going to get worse if they don't move on from one or hopefully all of them. It's just a joke. I'm sitting here trying not to smirk and trying not to laugh about it, but it's so bad. I think this argument is kind of silly, but I also kind of understand at the same time. Would Valtteri Puustinen from Wilkes-Barre be worse than this? No. He's probably their best player down there. Would Dan Heinen be worse than this? No. Sam Poulin was with the team right now, but he's not. He's not even with Wilkes-Barre because he's dealing with some stuff going on. Would he be worse than this? Probably not. Got to make a move there. I would like 2/3 of a new third line, but that's how I see it. It's just not good enough and needs to change ASAP. GM needs to come out of his cave and help out his team here. That's all I'm going to say. But that does it for this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I appreciate every one of you listening to this one. I'll have a full game recap episode coming up tomorrow evening for the Pens Oilers game, and then we'll preview the weekend slate of games for my Friday episode. So again, thank you all so much for listening. Hope you all enjoyed it. I'll talk with you all on Thursday.